Hey, this is Pamela Schneider. I'm the retail editor for Blue Book Services, and this is the Produce Reporter Week in Review. Greg, it's like you're still in Washington.
Doesn't it seem like I'm still in Washington?
It's when you can't use a little magic because you're already back from the Washington conference. But
In the back, we didn't, but this is so much easier. I don't have to hold my phone out in front of my face for 10 minutes.
you know what? Like at the end, you can tell when we're like getting tired. I'm like,
I
I
know I
could
start shaking a little.
I could use a tripod, and in fact, I have one like right here. But no, I'm just gonna I prefer the low tech, like high reward. Like we don't need to do fancy stuff. Every time I'm offered oh, there we go. Every time I'm offered one of the booths, I'm like, yeah, I would love to do it, but then I would have to like set up. As long as I can just like throw my phone up on somebody's tripod, I will totally take advantage of that.
Yeah.
We're off track though. You got to tell me about what's going on with the Washington conference.
Yeah, so I was in DC this week. I am back in my home office now, but it looked very much like this. Trust me. Uh, all the roughly 300 people attend this event, and the vast majority go up on the Hill. It was 2 days worth of lobbying, 1 day in the House, 1 day in the Senate. The two biggest issues that the industry was talking about was workforce concerns, specifically H2A, and making it less onerous going through regulations and pitching it to senators and representatives as a labor issue, not an immigration issue. Immigration is the third rail. Everyone in Congress is dug in their position and they're not moving, and they haven't for 40 years. So the industry has to talk about it in terms of workforce. And then the other one was a farm bill, and actually the Senate GOP leader, so they're in the minority, he issued his recommendations. The Democrats have not yet in the Senate. The House did, which is led by the Republicans last month, and so um, there's a little bit still to negotiate. And Tom Vilsack, the Ag Secretary, was one of the speakers there, and I wrote this story. He is skeptical that they're going to come together. Of course, he is criticizing the Republicans more than the Democrats. But they do. It does seem like the um, the versions will be farther apart. The Republicans want more funding for ag programs, and Democrats want more funding for nutrition programs like SNAP. The good news for the produce industry is in every version that's been proposed and is talking about being proposed, produce interests are on the increase. And so the only risk produce has probably is if it doesn't get done, because it expires at the end of September, and they would pass a continuing resolution or something to continue it. But there's a lot of people nervous that they won't get it done before the end of this session. And really, once you start getting into September, October, it's election time. This is a big election year. And then who knows if they would do something in a lame duck session after the election. So they're really pressing, get something done now, get it on the books, and produce is coming out well. So that's a good sign.
Well, and this conference also had like a little bit of an overlap with the new Produce for All Leadership Summit. Did you talk to anyone who was at both of those?
Well, I was at both of those.
Besides you.
Okay.
So what was that all
Okay.
about?
So yeah, all right. So the gist of it was people in the produce industry are having face-to-face meetings with the PHA people who are outside the produce industry but work in communities with nutrition funding. And basically, a group of people who have the same end goal of getting more nutritious food, particularly fresh produce, into the hands of people who need it. Except they have all these resources the produce industry doesn't know anything about, and so they had speakers in the first half of it. And the second half of it was working groups where people just met face to face and said, hey, what do you do? What can you do? How can we get into here? Oh, I think we could do this. And so I think it's a really good step in that um, it's getting away from talking about improving situations to actually talking to people who can do it. And
Hmm.
and all these people work in communities and have these connections, but they don't know the produce industry. They don't know what they can get. They don't know if they have to buy it, if they can get it donated. And the industry has all the answers for that. And so I think everyone's hopeful that these meetings will lead to actual cooperation in communities. Like IFPA mentioned that they want to double consumption in the next 6 years in 15 key cities. Well, this is a way to work with people in those cities. They have pilot programs now in Indianapolis and Denver that are going right now. And so produce people are meeting with people in these communities who know how to get things done and know people. And so I think it's a step toward action rather than just um, talking about things. Because in the produce, when we go to a big produce event, it's all produce people. Like
Right.
we know each other, and it's like we know what we want to do, but we don't always know how to do it.
Yeah, and like you said, being able to talk to some of the people from the Partnership for Healthy America, to be able to like they have the context. We have the produce, right? And we have some ideas, but we don't have the not everyone necessarily has the context. So to remove some of those gates, you don't have to go through the gatekeepers and the chains of command and also just like the layers that it is to get to people who actually do the thing.
Yeah.
That I think that was pretty valuable, and to have the overlap between some of the audiences between the Washington conference and some of these folks, a lot of influential people in produce, definitely.
Yeah. And one of the things that's always frustrating for the produce industry working in Washington is the industry does not like bureaucracy. Like we like getting stuff done every day and every day changes, and bureaucracy just takes forever. And some of these communities, you run into the same red tape. Like I just want to get my produce to people who need it. But these people hopefully know how to get through some of that red tape. And they they say that a lot of politics is the long game. It did work for WIC purchases. I mean,
Yeah.
we talked about that up on that hill for 5, 10 years, and it did happen this year. So, keep it pressing them actually can lead to results sometimes.
Sometimes. Well, let's segue into the topic of the week, the backdrop of the week. We've had a lot of avocado talk in the news this week. One of our newsletters had a Rabobank report that says global avocado markets on the rise as the industry braces for expansion. And it was talking more about like growing avocados, more avocados in Spain, and in other places in the the EU, trying to feed the EU market. Morocco's becoming a bigger player, and that's feeding a developing market over there. Over here on the west coast, the west side of the avocado deal, right next to that, we had Guatemala is awaiting approval to get to the U.S. market, and it's not going to be soon enough for this summer.
No, we also ran a crop update for Marcon, which said Hass avocados are going to be very tight for the next probably a month because whatever current season we're in is ending, and the next season, the Flor Loca, I believe, or Loca style, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just starting. It's a little behind, and it probably will not be mature until mid to late July. And so probably what we're looking at is a month with a pretty tight supply of avocados. And unfortunately, uh, California and Peru will probably not be able to meet demand. The last few years, California avocados haven't even made it east of the Rockies because they are in such high demand, and there's a lot of people west of the Rockies, and it's a lot easier I mean, if you got a market over there and they pay premium prices for it, no reason to ship it further.
Yeah, yeah. The only time I've seen California avocados in the last couple of years has been bagged fruit, and usually sold at a premium at my local stores. But Colombia was also an area that we've run quite a few kind of season wrap-up stories to talk about how much their exports have grown. But this Rabobank report, I'm just looking at this The US's appetite for avocados keeps growing, setting import records at 1.26 million metric tons in 2023. That's an 11% increase year over year. And Mexico is its primary supplier with 90% share of imports. So when the Flor Loca is being crazy, they got us in a ringer, right? Because we're talking about guacamole has become commodified in food service. I mean, it's there. And everyone expects it to be there, and food service operators depend on the supplies to be there. The retail price can go up and down and stuff like that, but the food service, I think, is really an area where we're looking at. We just had the world's largest avocado display at, I can't remember which store it was, but it was a couple of weeks ago. And so the demand for me, I know the Haas Avocado Board has been doing a lot of research on trying to make sure that we are our outlook and forecasting are matching what's coming as far as supplies, so we're not getting into an oversupply situation. But in the immediate, there is no ceiling as far as American demand for avocados so far.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think food service is going to get hit harder because it's just a regular menu item, and if a consumer goes to the store and it's too high, you can skip it at retail for a little while, but food service, it's going to be much tougher for them,
especially with contract pricing. I'm sure there's ways to work around that, but they've probably got that stuff locked in pretty tight. And when the market goes up and down, it's got to be a challenge, especially when you talk about all the different places that have avocados on the menu nowadays. It's not just Mexican food. Almost every restaurant that I can think of, at least around me, has some form of avocados on the menu, whether it's in a salad or in some kind of on a burger. So they've become just a ubiquitous menu item here in the States, at least.
Yeah, but it's not officially summer yet, but boy, summer produce is out in force.
It's been great.
It's good. I even got some peaches this week that were I only bought a handful because I wasn't sure, and they were awesome. The watermelon's already good. We have a counter full of sweet corn. Like it's not summer yet.
No.
Technically,
but it's summer somewhere. I mean, I implore you to go outside of my house right now. It is full blown ovens on summer outside for us.
It's 95 in Kansas City, so it feels pretty summery to me.
Right. I'm going to cut it off there for this week. That's it for the Produce Reporter Week in Review. If you are not getting the Produce Reporter newsletter, you need to go to producebluebook.com and sign up.